Welcome to the Debrief.
Your no-nonsense look
At the critical talent topics shaping today's landscape.
no scripts.
No sugarcoating.
Only spicy takes, just real insight from across the industry.
I'm Ben Sesser.
I'm Chris Abbass.
I'm Tracy St, and this
Is the Debrief. Shall we get this show on the road?
We shall.
Let's do it.
Today, we're diving into a question that's reshaping the workforce faster than anyone expected. What happens to early career hiring when AI takes over junior work? So in the US, early career roles for the most AI exposed areas have seen a 13% drop, and globally we're seeing similar signals. So a 32% decline in the UK, for example, in junior vacancies since the release of ChatGPT, which is pretty wild. So today, Tracy, Ben, and I are unpacking the big questions. If the first rung of the ladder is shifting, what replaces it? If AI does the doing, which human skill is going to rise in value? And in this evolving talent landscape, who stands to gain the most and who could be left behind? What do you guys think?
Tracy, you're on the front lines, but I talk to a lot of TA leaders all the time, and I think the data is real, at least from my vantage point across our clients and the conversations I'm having. I think there's not a conversation I'm in where someone isn't saying that, they're trying to do more with less, leverage AI to be more efficient, and profitable. I don't see clients cutting roles they're hiring, but the way that they're hiring is very different. They're either pushing teams to hire fewer people, or they're in a G&A function where it's, we're going to grow as much as humanly possible and keep the headcount in this function flat as it's sort of forcing function to get more efficient. And I'm also seeing roles being moved to other countries, which I know is like a little tangential to early career hiring, but not totally, because some of the early career roles are the ones that I think I'm seeing pushed to other geos the most. So definitely, I don't think this is, data that isn't being borne out in reality. I think I'm seeing it, kind of every day in terms of the way that teams are operating, and how cautious they are about hiring in general, I would say, in particular in roles where they're not sure what the future holds for doing the job day in, day out, and how AI is going to impact that. They're not investing to, build these big teams, whether it's like BDRs or other frontline roles. I don't know, Tracy, if that's something that you're seeing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I could see this going a couple different ways. Like right now, we're on this path where in the present, entry level workers, I think, are being boxed out of the market, right? When we're seeing 13% decline of jobs for workers 22 to 25 in AI impacted jobs like data entry or finance roles or paralegals, ops roles, those sort of things. So I don't think that can continue to be the case. I think there's going to be a recorrection, but that's kind of where we are right now. I think the other path, and the one I'm more optimistic to see, is that we're going to very clearly no longer assign the grunt work to entry level workers, which hopefully will then empower them to start creating value to the company from the very beginning. So I think because AI can accelerate that learning curve of knowledge, we could start to see that. So I think early career jobs as we know it are not going away, or the early career jobs rather are going away, but the talent is not. And so we just need to redefine our assumptions on what the talent can do.
Do you think then it's going to be about how companies can train and ramp this talent and get them into those positions and give them those skills
Yeah.
as quickly as possible?
I think we assumed that early level roles had to do grunt work to learn, and that's just not really the case. Like, I think the reality was that it was advantageous for more experienced workers to assign that type of work to junior staff because one, they feel like they have like graduated from doing it. I have 10 years experience. I shouldn't be doing data entry, right? But it's not inherent that those things have to be done in order to learn. You don't need to be a coordinator on a recruiting team for 2 years before you can become a sourcer. You don't have to be a sourcer before you can become a recruiter. So I think maybe AI is revealing that our assumptions about what 22 to 25-year-olds could accomplish was probably patronizing and a bit flawed. So AI doesn't automate away jobs, it automates tasks. And I think just the tasks that people are doing are going to have to change.
I have mixed agreement with that perspective. I
Yeah.
so I agree. I agree. AI automates tasks, not jobs. I think the upshot is certainly squeezing opportunities, right? So it's definitely freezing out because if AI is automating tasks, you kind of expect more productivity of everybody, individually. I also believe that there's a really interesting opportunity from an L&D perspective, and I do also believe that early careers folks can do pretty amazing things. I mean, you see it, but I do think that there is an importance in the or like the types of jobs someone takes early in their career and the types of things they learn, both in terms of the context of the market or the company that they're in, just like interpersonally and the things you have to deal with. I think there's like a resiliency. And that's not to say that it can't exist in like the next iteration of an early careers role. But, I in a world of being sort of AI enabled, everyone's sort of I think of it as editors. You're like an editor versus and so you're playing the role of a manager basically. And written, if you've never been a writer, it's hard to be an editor. And pick your domain. Like if you don't understand the context, if you don't understand how the function works, if you don't understand some of the things that you I think pick up over a period of time, you could read about all day long, but it's different to kind of exist in that world and operate. Becomes a little hard to be an editor um, and like maximally effective. So I like that optimist point of view. Yeah.
I agree with that piece, though. I think that to Chris's original question too, it's about companies will have to design more intentional learning systems and learning ecosystems where AI is not a replacement for practice, but practice really looks different. So I see a world where there needs to be more mentorship or more, maybe it's supervisors, but there's more shadowing, more scaffolded learning so that people can build judgment and problem solving and understand the context that they used to get by just kind of like watching the work, but actually really getting intentional learning around some of those things. So I don't disagree with you that uh, talent is incredible at those early stages and can do incredible things. I also don't disagree with you that they need to build context and they need to build judgment and experience in their fields. But I think how we do that is a really big L&D question too.
The interesting thing is if you look at graduate hiring in its basic form, it's really an investment in the future for a company. And that requires patience. And I think the world that we all work in is not very
Hmm.
patient.
Hmm.
Right. And I think that this is the thing that seems to be when I look at, you know, across the client base or customers that we speak to, um, especially in AI at the moment, it's a race. And they don't want to wait for, this early talent to come up. They want to hire everyone at a senior level who can plug and play and operate from day one autonomously. And it's going to be really interesting because that's to build um, a business that is everlasting and can actually be here in a decade's time or 20 years' time. All the best companies in the world have a great fundamental graduate campus program, right? That's kind of something that all these companies have. And I think that if companies really don't focus on that now, it's going to bite them later on. But I just don't think they have the patience right now. And that seems to be a kind of bottleneck for them. I don't know if you're seeing that or feeling that.
Yeah, I mean, as Tracy, as you were talking, so first of all, I think we can get into, I'm sure we will, like how AI shapes L&D because I think it's going to be incredible. There's just a big gap between the promise and what exists today and the short termism of companies. But like for so many reasons, like in the growth stage, short termism because it's like an urgent race, against everybody else, and there's not the patience to invest. I think for publicly traded companies, there's some short termism just in terms of managing financials to quarterly objectives, and you see companies like laying off people over here to invest in compute over there, very very practically speaking. And so I wonder how many companies are gonna invest and be patient enough to like put the right systems in place, and like how much of the labor force is that going to actually absorb. Um, Probably not enough, if I was to guess. So, it'll be interesting to see, kind of how that plays out. Because again, I think what you described sounds amazing. And I'm thinking to myself, how many companies are truly going to invest in that and make that, you know, come to play for early career folks.
Yeah, that might be like a very optimistic ideal path, like more mentorship, more scaffolded learning. I mean, these are things that early career folks have wanted for years, and companies have been cutting those, honestly. So, like, what's going to change now? The reason I bring this up is you all know, like, before I was at Zapier, I was at Teach for America. So 80% of our effort was recruiting on college campuses. So I know way too much about hundreds of college campuses across the country. But I think this is really interesting, and we could definitely get into a debate of even is college or university even necessary in this AI driven world. I think that's a very interesting and different topic. But I think in the meantime, in the next 5 to 10 years, people will still go to university. It will still be something that happens. And I think there could be two different routes, right? Like we could see universities continue on this path of like practicality and applicable experience. So over the past decades, graduates with liberal arts degrees have decreased in favor of professional degrees, engineering, business, accounting, etc. And the idea was that practical experience or hard skills were going to trump soft skills like critical thinking and communication. But when we no longer need to code or we no longer need to like analyze data, what happens? So I could see those universities recognizing, okay, we need coding plus AI, finance plus AI, and starting to weave in AI in really practical ways so that graduates emerge with a practical application of skills, but still AI native. Or I could see completely the opposite. We swing back to like philosophy, psychology, creative writing, even the arts. Because if we're going to prize the human skills more, because that's irreplaceable, as we say, then I wonder if universities will actually go back to a core curriculum, finding meaning in the human experience, which right now we're all saying cannot be replicated by AI and is absolutely necessary in this future world, too. So I'm really interested then about how that will change what we even think about early career talent in the first place.
I think so. I think in my heart of hearts, the idea of going back to liberal arts education and learning those perspectives, I actually do think is extremely beneficial. Um, as it has always been, but certainly in the future, and would be something that I would conceptually value in someone a new grad hire. I think the problem is I don't think in mass employers are going to be like, you know what, we want to hire only liberal arts graduates because I want somebody to really understand the world and have a great perspective. Like they're still going to be focused on what can you do and when can you do it for me. And so I think that what's kind of cool now that I'm thinking about it is it's so much easier to be a builder in so many ways that I think college will turn much more into it's almost like taking shop class. If anyone actually took shop in high school, which I did, or you like building little things out of wood. Like I think it'll end up becoming much more of applied like building and creating because that's that's a gap right now. I was thinking about this the other day. I think one of the real advantages that folks that are earlier have is they're experimenting and they're trying all these tools and they are truly AI native, like in a way that they have the opportunity, and many are in a way that would be actually incredibly valuable. Like come into the business and like, hey, look, I have this tool for this and that, but you have no way to really observe that from the outside. People really need to show up and show their work. And so in a world where folks can come off a college campus and be like, look at all these things I built. This is my evidence. This shows that I'm AI native, that I can build, that I get stuff done. Like that's something that I would, as an employer, certainly gravitate towards value, and give me a ton of confidence that like someone's going to hit the ground running.
The really interesting thing I found is um, there was this idea that it would just be kind of the kind of more low skilled labor that was getting replaced or moved out of the workforce. And actually, we're seeing engineering jobs decrease, right? We're seeing these really advanced level, highly sought after professions that are also being impacted by AI. So I guess when we think about the whole workforce, like what should people be thinking about from an early stage like standpoint? Um, like what are the roles that are going to have the most value for them?
I do think it's wild that from at least from 2000 and call it nine, and Tracy, you probably saw this firsthand, right? Like Teacher America, from 2009 to 2019, the message was loud and clear. It was like, get a job, like major in STEM, like how, like focus on STEM education and you'll be set for life. Like that was the message at like multiple levels of education nationwide. And no blame on anyone for pushing that because who would have, I certainly didn't see agentic coding, diminishing the value of a STEM education coming. But I do think it's like a pretty wild switch from blue collar jobs being outsourced and like the hollowing out of like the Rust Belt and everyone should go into STEM to, oh no, wait, those are actually better, like that's actually a stickier place to be in terms of, labor market resilience and, early career STEM jobs getting negatively impacted. It's just a wild really wild turnaround in 3 years, basically.
Yeah, and I think that the changes are gonna happen so much more quickly too. So even what we're saying today and this if we did this podcast a year from now, it might be really
Yeah.
different. I mean, I
Totally.
don't know, I think, AI, again, it automates tasks, it makes technical tasks cheaper. I think in that sense, it makes good human judgment more expensive and more valuable. So when we think about hiring, we wanna ensure that people have not only, technical skills, but also the strategic acumen to know like what is the future of their field? How will their field change with this landscape of AI? Especially when we're hiring managers or team leaders, we're really looking for people who know their craft, but know their craft plus have a forward-looking vision of the future where they can really think about not only how is AI going to make us faster, but how is AI going to make us better, and how is it going to improve the stakeholder experience too. And so that sort of human judgment and contextual pieces for right now at least like that is really prized skill. That's what we're really looking for. And so, I mean, but then think 5 years in the future and it's like, is that just everybody's gonna know how to use AI? Everyone's gonna be highly AI fluent. Like, what is the next set of skills gonna need to be? So I think maybe Ben, like I'm on the very like optimistic, like, human-centered side of like, I just truly think that we're going to need human judgment to continue to get deeper, broader, more contextual, and that it's gonna continue to still be valued to have humans in the loop. But I also really see that too from the business perspective of in the immediate, how do we get cheaper, better, faster, and not have to sacrifice between any of those three?
Think like AI is just going to do a bunch of jobs and do them all really well. I don't think anyone wants a ton of people or even a handful of people, and their job is basically serving AI slop for lunch. It's like I wrote this thing, AI slop. Here you go. Like you actually want people that know their craft. I was talking about this with somebody today, actually on our team about marketing and skills in marketing, and there's a huge difference between somebody who takes voice of the customer, a sales deck, some market research, throws in AI and says, here's a positioning document for this product. Here it is, and just like takes that on faith and thinks it's great. And someone who looks at it and they're like, this is 20% there, and I need to like edit this whole thing or add more context and can tell the difference between good and great. So I think the quality bar for the best work is going to go way the heck up, and the velocity of really really high quality work is going to increase dramatically. If you think about how much time I think about like reports I did, earlier in my career, it's like something that would have taken an entire internship can be done in 3 hours. Like the velocity of high quality work is going to increase, but there's going to be a big difference between high quality work and slop. And so you still need craft and understanding of your domain, to your point, Tracy, and market knowledge. And so the question becomes, how do you get junior career folks to a position where they're like able to produce and take advantage of that? And I think that there's going to be like a big increasing delta between early career folks and folks in general that are high agency, high curiosity, and super hungry, and the economic journey they're going to go on throughout their career, and others. Because if you do have those three things, you will take full advantage of an incredible set of tools and just completely differentiate yourself in a way. And so I think there's going to be like uh, a huge delta that we'll see in sort of what careers and financial um, stability looks like between folks that either have like kind of those traits or don't.
Well, it's a good point too about AI's changing what expertise even means. Like, it's not just about what you know, but at least right now, it's how do you work with AI? How do you frame problems? How do you verify outputs? How do you apply judgment and context? Know when to use it, when not to use it, and then communicate those insights really clearly, right? So, I think even this idea of having expertise in a subject and being able to apply your contextual knowledge to something, even that might evolve over time. So I don't know. It's like a scary world out there. We don't there's so much uncertainty.
Yeah, I mean, even to take the other side of this, I'd love to like see into the future. And is there a side of this where we're totally overestimating like what can be done with AI, and there's going to be a reversion to shit? We need human beings to do this. And I would love to know how much time is being wasted on bullshit at the moment with AI, because I get sent the most random shit from AI, and I'm like, have you even read this? And you've spent your time like fiddling around, you sent it to me, you might have started doing some work based on the output, and it's total, crap. And I'm just like,
Totally.
how much of that is happening across organizations? How much is it slowing organizations down instead of speeding them up? And that's really hard to work out right now. but it will absolutely be happening.
The battle against less obviously bad work is
Yeah,
kind of what makes this
yeah,
like
yeah, yeah.
it's like 12 years ago I'd have been like, are you kidding me? Is this what you're sending me right now? And now it's like this has all the dimensions of something that was really well done, but actually upon a little bit more inspection, this is also terrible. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, yeah.
yeah.
But you got it faster, and it's also,
Yeah.
like, a lot longer too, right? It's just
Yes,
like, I
yes,
wrote this
yes.
whole memo, and it's like, I
You
don't
put
want
you
the whole
pushed it off your
memo.
plate and onto my plate. So now I'm reading a longer document that stings, and you got it off your plate faster. It's like awesome.
But it has emojis, so it's all good.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. Yes.
Yes.
You might want to find replace the M dashes next time you send me this.
Yeah.
Okay, I am in favor of the M dash, always have been, always will
Me
be
too, by the
for
way.
ChatGPT, so that is my spicy take of the day.
I've always been an M dash fan, and like I'm not changing my behavior to prove that I'm not using AI. If you think I'm just not, if you think I'm sending you AI as I'm getting it, then like I don't know. You don't. Yeah, you have no faith in me or something. Yeah.
So I guess like in this like rapidly evolving space, thinking about how we build our companies and early stage talent is a critical part of that. Like, what are you guys looking out for in terms of how to make the right decisions when it comes to that early stage talent? Is there like an inflection point for you that's like, nope, we go back to hiring early stage grads and train them up, or there's a totally new way of doing this?
Hmm. I think for us, and this is still evolving, also, to be fair, at Zapier, we historically haven't hired a lot of early grads because we're a fully remote company. We have the benefit of
Same.
having talent from everywhere. That being said, and especially thinking about my time at Teach for America, I think that some of the things that separated the really top performers for early career talent versus those that were not top performers were a lot of the soft skills that I think are still really necessary right now. Things like being really proactive, the hustle, being able to have resilience. I think someone said earlier, being able to set a vision and understand the parts to how to get to that vision. Like these are all skills that I think many early career folks really do have. Those need to be nurtured. And those are some of the things that I look at as high potential. So for us, we look at generally what are the soft skills that would lead someone to thrive at Zapier. And I think those soft skills are not just present in people with 10, 20 years of experience. I think they could be present in people right out of university with 1 year experience. So how are you indexing on the things that you know are going to make someone successful in your company? And then figure out how are you training them up. And I think a lot of this is org design, right? Like there has to be dynamicism between the different levels that you're hiring for. And so maybe it's more incumbent on those HR leaders and people leaders to redesign what orgs look like. It's not just early career and mid stage and not, but it's like, what's the sort of soft skills? What's the sort of capabilities? What's the sort of perspective that you want within your team? What's the org design between agents and early career folks and more advanced folks? Like, these are all really big questions that are going to be, I think, pretty relevant in the future.
We also don't hire early careers or like I'd say we hire early-ish careers, but not fresh grads because we're fully remote as well. Primarily because I think I could not imagine my first job being a fully remote job. Um, like I did, that just seems I don't trust that that's a good experience for somebody's first job, quite frankly. And as you're talking, Tracy, I don't think that not hiring early career grads is a good thing. Like, I actually think it's a huge it's an incredible, reservoir of amazing talent. People are, some of the folks that, are so precocious, like they're so emotionally mature. And again, in this world, their ability to get up the learning curve super fast and be open-minded and try new things. Like there's a whole bunch of traits that are incredibly desirable. So I hope a lot of companies are recognizing that, will recognize that because, maybe it'll end up being like the ultimate arbitrage. Right now, it's a really tough labor market for early careers. And, maybe it's the companies that are smart enough to recognize how to identify the right characteristics of early career folks, how to equip folks with the tools where if they are high agency and curious and voracious, they just can get up to, an incredible level very quickly. And then, now they have really, really high potential, really high productive folks at, frankly, a much lower cost. And to your point, Chris, from earlier, a class that represents the future of the organization, in an A9 native way, in a way that works the way that the world is going to work in the future. Because I think we all see it. People are pretty stuck in their habits. as it relates to how they go about their day, and in many cases to the detriment of productivity and doing things in a way that's gonna drive velocity. And so maybe it's like the ultimate arbitrage.
Yeah, totally agree. Really interesting from my point of view is we used to hire a lot of graduates and train them up into recruiters. And it was really interesting experience. And I loved what you said right at the start, Tracy, and that having these steps are somewhat arbitrary. Um, and I've always been a big believer that you can get people who have really high potential up to speed really quickly. And we saw that within 3 months, some of our early stage grads could be outperforming senior recruiters from an output standpoint. Um, the challenge the challenge for us was there's always a bias from either hiring managers or other people that they're dealing with that if you have someone with 6 months experience, they're not taken seriously. So that's the bit that you're kind of fighting against, specifically with kind of junior talent that we have. But we've had such a great experience with it. But remote kind of made that really difficult, as you said, Ben. To wrap things up, what's the spicy take?
I know I was pretty negative on the outlook for early careers grads, but my spicy take is that a class of companies are going to see arbitrage. They're going to overinvest. They're going to hire super high potential early careers folks because there's amazing talent available that are, like having a really hard time landing jobs. They're going to build incredible platforms and infrastructure for them. They're going to be AI native, and they're going to blow out all of these slow, big moving companies where people are stuck in their ways. That's my spicy take.
I love that. I will remain very optimistic for early career jobs. I think they're going to evolve. I think they're going to be so much more interesting, so much more engaging and empowering for the younger generations because I just think they're going to have so many more tools at their disposal and I think they're going to really wow us on what they can do when we really let them run. So, I'm pumped for that and so I don't know, maybe I agree with you, Ben. I agree. I think the future is very optimistic for early career grads.
This might be a boring final take, 'cause I think we're all in agreement here. That I'm definitely gonna, when I see a market moving one way, I love to take the other side, and I think that very rarely it doesn't swing back aggressively at some point. And so I feel like all of the companies that are um, devaluing graduate hires and what they can achieve in a company, it's just going to be maths at some point. They're going to have a top heavy organization. They're not going to have enough people to do the work they need them to do. They're going to run out of talent and they're going to need to hire and figure that out quickly. So yeah, I think that that's what's going to happen. It seems like we're on the grad side where the graduates have nothing to worry about. They're going to take over. That was a great first episode. For everyone listening, thank you. This is a debrief, and make sure you follow the show so you never miss an episode.